My friends, good afternoon. Felicitations and joy from the idyllic Isle of Bute. This is the Reverend Doctor, maybe Reverend Professor soon. Watch this space. Reverend Dr. David William Parry, pontificating and spouting again with his dear friend and colleague Kapil Gupta about coaching. Hence, this is the third edition of Coach. What did we call it? Coach talk. That was it. Joke on couch talk. Yeah, that was it. And I think that's a good title for it all. Relaxed. We don't want to scare anyone off. A relaxed overview, a relaxed discussion of topics actually that affect us all. I mean, Kapil is a trained working at counselling. Isn't that the right way around? A trained coach with a great deal of experience. And I confess, I'm slowly being drawn into the world of Christian counselling. I mean, most ministers, de facto are forced to do that, whether they like it or not. I think that should be upped. I think the grading of that should be upped these days because a lot of the problems are dealt with on the level of counselling. I want to take that further. I'm only using Christian counselling as the vehicle. Why? Why? There are obvious reasons why. And I think it helps give a certain perspective and a contrast to what Kapil is doing, curiously. And what is the contrast, and is it as noticeable as people think? Watch this space. Today's program will still be 15 minutes. From our next session, they will be 30 minutes, and we're trying to make them more interactive as we go on. Please be patient with us. Rome wasn't built in a day. There's a pun there somewhere, and we will get there. What I wanted to do with Kapil today, because he's got a great deal of work, great deal of experience in working with men. I remember somebody, I remember somebody saying to me years back, I am a man and you are a gay man. And I was expected not to react to that. Actually, I didn't, because I was so angry. But so what is a man? What is a man? I mean, I'm into Jung and all that sort of weirdo, collective unconscious and archetypes. I remember to this day a scene from the movie Chianiscazzi, which has idyllic photojournalism, photography of raw nature at the beginning, and it keeps going back to a cave where the Native Americans have inscribed images of the Kachinas, the original primary spirits, the archetypes, and everything had this sort of tranquil, harmonious feel to it. Is being a man an archetype? Is there an archetype of being a man? The hunter-gatherer, the warrior, the husband, the father. Is that still there? Was it ever there? Let's not take things at face value. And if it was, did it take the same form as it does now? I'm also sort of slightly influenced by Maslow, the ultimate optimist. We can get through these problems no matter what is going on around us, because I think we need a bit of that these days. But as I say, Kapil's not only an author, a fellow author, he's done a great deal of work in this field, and I'm going to start with the hot potato. I know you've talked about this with other people, Kapil, but what do you make of that there, Andrew Tate?
Oh my God. Straight away. I think he's a brilliant marketer. He probably has a great team of marketing people around him. And he has taken something that is very controversial. And I don't know whether it's him or media, mainstream media, that has created these sound bites and made him into some kind of like a spokesperson of a certain kind of conversation around what is masculinity or what is manhood. I find that, so I think that's really where I find talking about him is like giving more to social media, giving more clicks. Like as soon as you put his name or tag on social media, it's like he gets the benefit of being talked about more. So I have, for that reason, I've chosen not to talk about him a lot. Only I think this is probably the second time that I'm talking about him. but I think that's really how I see it. It's like he's a brilliant marketer, and I think there's a lot of confusion around, especially younger generation, around what does it mean to be a man. And he provides, I think, some of the stuff that he talks about, he provides like a very definite way of like, oh, this is what it means. And as you can tell, as humans, we like to be in control. We want resolution. And here's a man who comes and says, no, this is what it means to be a man. And he's someone who's successful, like he obviously has done some good things in the field of athletics. So he's seen as someone who is an influencer in that way. He seems to be well off. So people go and say, oh, if he is that, then maybe what he's talking about in a very certain way about being a man and manhood is probably correct as well. So, and it gives people some kind of resolution to latch on to in a world where I think what's being asked of us is finding our own definition of what does it mean to be a man, which is very individualistic to everyone, especially in the field, like in our culture. I find we get bombarded, irrespective of like what our sexual orientation is. We get bombarded by the media, by advertisements, by marketing, continuously telling what does it mean to be a man. Like if you are this, then you are good enough man. If you are this, then you are man enough. So I think there's a real need for us to do the inner work to really understand who we are, what is our blueprint, and get a sense of self-worth and self-love in whoever we are, and define our manhood from that place. And it is a very uncertain process. So when that is how I feel, like so someone comes along like Andrew Tate who says, no, this is what I think it is, and then people latch on, especially young people latch onto it, and it's like, oh yeah, he's making some sense. So, and there's a lot of anger. I think there's a lot of anger in our culture, in all genders. So here comes someone who kind of like speaks to that anger, and it's very easy for people to say, yeah, right, this is it, this is where I belong, and that's how I see it. Does that how do you feel about it?
Insightful as always. The guy has me absolutely perplexed. He has me absolutely confused. I mean, obviously there's a brain there. I notice all of the young ladies I know just won't talk about him. There's this sort of instinctive, knee-jerk, what a total bastard reaction.
Yeah.
All of the more mature ladies I know just brush it off and laugh. I also noticed that he's plugging into the gangster type of culture, which is very prevalent, of course, amongst certain sections of young men at the moment. The ultimate rebel, I do what I do when I want to do it, which actually is just arbitrary as opposed to male. Indeed, I did a comedy sketch, one of those weird little comedy sketches you can do on TikTok, a year or so ago, because he was saying things like, Andrew Tate was saying, only poor people drink still sparkling water. Rich people drink proper sparkling water. So I couldn't resist. I had footage of myself taken drinking a small cup of sparkling water. And to my absolute horror, it got over 1 million likes. So, no, as I say, the guy has me absolutely intrigued in some ways. I can't work out how far he actually believes what he's saying, how much of it's a marketing move. And, is he appealing to traditional models of manhood? And if he is, he seems to be going a very strange way about it. The respectable father strikes me as much more powerful as an archetypal image, as a blueprint, as you said, than the gangster, the young misfit. It's always young if we're looking in real terms. The young misfit who actually hasn't found his place amongst other men at the moment. I mean, what do you think of that, Kapil?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a couple of things, and you've seen me talk about this. I think there's a lot of what I find in today's world, especially when we talk about manhood, what we are often talking about is a cultural conditioning, which is like the masculine. What does it mean to be a conditioned man or conditioned masculine or conditioned feminine, irrespective of the gender that we align ourselves to? So I find that, there's this traditional view of men or boys attached to blue color and girls with the pink color, and everything that we are taught from young age is like, oh, boys, you're going to be the provider, you have to be the protector, boys don't show feelings and emotions. And there's like, probably, if you show feelings and emotions, then you are a wuss. Like all of those things, if we take them at a young age, that is what creates our belief system. Then the collective consciousness gets created from that. So when we grow up, that is what becomes like what a man should be like. But essentially, it's just a conditioning, cultural conditioning that we've been through. So I think a lot of what I see it is like it's undoing a lot of that conditioning to find out who I am. Like, and that is what I like to call it, a blueprint. Is like who I am underneath all of that. What do I want? And then how do I want to live my life? And when I get to that place, then it doesn't matter how anyone else defines what a man is. The only thing that matters is how I define who I am. So, and I think that is what I feel in terms of like the misfits and this counterculture or the gangster culture or like the alpha male. I find that there's a place where some self-inquiry is needed at a base level. And I think that's where I love your work, like, and I think we're so aligned in that it doesn't matter if it's a religious work or coaching or spirituality. It's all about, at the end of the day, about self-awareness, about self-inquiry. And I think one of the pieces that we are really missing in our culture, especially at the youngsters at the school level, is having children be taught self-awareness and a way to question their own belief system and thoughts about who they are and what belief system they are picking up. So I think a self-awareness and a way to do self-inquiry is critical, I think, if we are to sort of look at, Andrew Tate is one example. I'm sure there are other such examples in different parts of our culture. And I think ultimately we got to be able to say, okay, well, thank you. Let me see if it aligns to my values and who I am. And do I want to actually live life like that? And what is my impact on the world? And I think if we can teach that to people, then a lot of other things probably just like will go away.
I mean, what do you think of Andrew Tate's use of symbolism? The cigar above the sort of, the
Yeah.
naked torso, these Bugatti cars, and
Yeah.
only really flattering to women of a certain type. No disrespect to any type of woman, but a certain type that he chooses to say, these are the alpha women. I mean, what do you
Yeah.
make of all of that? Is that marketing or something else?
It's speaking to that conditioning, right? Like that most of us are sort of, we grow up with and we live through, like, and I say, like, if you look at the marketing messages that we get, if you go to the gym, if you have six-pack, then you are man enough, right? And so if you have like a supercar, then you are man enough. And if you don't, then you should be striving for it to become man enough. So he's speaking to that archetype. He's speaking to that sort of conditioned social norms. It's like, oh, look, I've made it. Now I am man enough. And you guys need to be looking at me and what I have to become man enough. And I think that's the message that he's speaking to, and that is why a lot of our, like, whether call it men, women, people get attracted to that, because we've been taught to strive for an idea of manhood. And once we get there, we will be man enough, only to know there's no such thing. Once you've ticked all the boxes, you're like, oh, I thought I'll be man enough, but I'm not. Where do I go from here?
Well, Kapil, believe it or not, that's our 15 minutes.
Oh my God. Sorry, I talked a lot.
No, it was wonderful, because what you've done is you've laid the ground for a much longer conversation next month, which, remember, if anyone's viewing this, and why not, this is good stuff, we go to half an hour from next month. We'll be exploring again the topic of what is a man, what are men. And I think Kapil's laid a great deal of ground for us to explore much, much further about the dysfunctions, anomalies, and the advancements of our modern world. Kapil, thank you so much for joining me today. And until we meet again, adieu.
Thank you so much, David. Take care.